Shalom, shalom, Israel. I want to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kadash. Shalom to the elders and apostles of great millstones, GMS like-minded brothers, and to you fellow Akim and Akwath that's out there that's preaching the word. You fellow Akim, Salakia out there that's preaching the word, sincerity and truth. Shalom and shalom to the Akwath out there, revering their husbands and being diligent in the Most High. Shalom. I want to get into this lesson called The Bible is about so-called black Hispanics and Native Americans. The Bible is about so-called black history, man. I'm going to start with the book of Deuteronomy, or Jeremiah chapter 17. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, and I'll cause thee to serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. Yeah, we lost our heritage, man. We discontinued from our heritage. We're calling ourselves black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Native American, Haitians. All these bywords and proverbs that the so-called white man Esau, Edom in the scriptures gave us, which none of that's our nationalities. We are the Israelites, according to the scriptures. We are Yasher Allah. We are the apple of the Lord's eye. We are God's chosen people. And us doing that, we broke the commandments. That's why we lost our identity, man. And we lost our heritage. We don't know our heritage. We're over here calling ourselves black, Hispanic, Native American. We want to be like the other nations, the so-called white man, Chinese, Japanese, the Hamites, the East Indians, all these other heathen nations want to be like them, instead of our God-given nationality as Israelites that the Most High gave us, a prince of power, to be above all these other nations, man. For ye have kindled the fire of my anger, which shall burn forever. Yeah, we kindled the fire in the Lord's anger by breaking his commandments, man. Breaking his commandments, so he made us lose our identity to where we can't even think about who we are. We just in the world thinking about sports, thinking about music, thinking about the only way we can make it out is either rapping or making music or trapping or whatever the Jake be doing out there in the world. That's not according to the scriptures. The Most High made us not think about that, but now we're coming back to the commandments and the ways of life, man. I'm going to get into the book of Hosea. Oh, this is the book of Hosea, chapter 4. No, Salakia. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 1. Oh, Salakia, this is the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy power, I will also forget thy children. See, our people were destroyed for lack of knowledge. We're not thinking about the day is old. We're not thinking about the commandments. We're not thinking about who we are. We're just destroyed from the lack of knowledge, man. All types of folly, man, is going on. We already celebrating Christmas, celebrating, Christmas goes back to, what's the name? To Nimrod. Nimrod, the Ethiopian, the Cushite. Nimrod, Christmas is actually you worshiping Nimrod's groin. That's what it actually goes back to, man. That whole Christmas spirit. In the book of it says in that you worshiping Christmas is you worshiping the devil. That's what it is, man. So Christmas is not biblical. We shouldn't be getting into that. See, the Lord, he also rejected, let me read that again. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy power. I will also forget thy children. See, the Lord rejected us because we want to be stiff-necked. As the scripture says, my people are simple, because the children of Israel, the 2/3, they're simple. My people, they're into they're into simplicity, man. They're into doing challenges. They're into all types of manner of wickedness, TikTok dances, all types of wickedness, man. That's what our people are into. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy power. I will also forget thy children. See, the Lord, he forgot about us, man. He's not going to remember us. But he's remembering those that are coming back to his commandments. And he remembers those that are going to keep his commandments. And he's forgetting about those who don't want to follow his law. I'm going to the book of Deuteronomy. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken to the voice of the Lord thy Yahweh Shemashah, thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. So another curses that the Israelites went through is the curses of Deuteronomy, us being cursed in the city, us being in the ghettos and slums, us being in the bottom society. That's part of the curses for not keeping the God's commandments. And cursed shall thou be in the field. So we work in the cotton field, picking tobacco, sugar cane field, working all types of manner. We was under slavery, under the so-called white man, in the cotton field, in the sugar cane field, and all types of manners of work, of servitude, and captivity. When we were in captivity under this Esau Edom, these Edomites. Verse 18. And on the curses of Deuteronomy is actually real so-called black history. Because in the school they teach us that everything started in 1619. They don't teach 300 years or 400 years or 1,000 years prior to the slave trade, or 1,000 years prior to the 1,000 years, 2,000 years prior before we came here on so-called 2,000 years before we came here to America on slave ships. But they don't talk about they don't talk about anything with the scriptures. They don't talk about the King David. They don't talk about real black history. They don't talk about what we're doing. They don't talk about when we will ruin Europe for 1,000 years. And during the Moors and all that stuff, they don't talk about that. How King James was a so-called Negro. He was an Israelite, and all the people. Who else? Shakespeare's. All the nobles of Europe who were portrayed as Caucasians or as Edomites were actually Jakes, man. But not all Jakes were ruling Europe, because you had some Hamites, and you used to have some Ishmaelites that were over there during the Dark Ages in 70 AD. I mean, over there in Europe during the time the Dark Ages, before the Renaissance started to come up. But continue on, verse Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 18. Cursed shall thou be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out. So we were cursed when we're coming in and going out, talking about we were cursing every seed that we come in and cursed when we come out. Even if an Israelite was going to Japan, they'll be oppressed by the Ammonites, or Israelite going into India being oppressed by the East Indians, the who will be the Elamites today. So the Most High, He cursed us wherever we go, because it is a punishment by the Lord Yahweh Shai. Verse 20, the Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thy hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, until thou perish quickly because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he consume thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess. So the Lord, He sent cursings, vexations, He sent all types of diseases, and all types of sickness, and all types of tortures, because we didn't want to keep His commandments, and we were being disobedient to Him. Verse 22, the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. So the Lord, He was sending us all types of diseases, all types of cursings, and all types of all hell breaking loose, man. All hell was coming to the Israelites during this time. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder, and dust from heaven, and it shall come down upon thee till thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies, and thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. So this is what they don't teach in school. They don't teach that the Israelites, the so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, were removed into all kingdoms of the earth, and they were oppressed. We were oppressed and destroyed for our disobedience to the Lord. And these curses, they don't teach none of this. This is real so-called Black history. This is Israelite history, man. That's all. That's why they don't teach these. They don't teach these things in school. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air. This is verse 26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Yeah, that's talking about the lynchings. Cause when they used to lynch us, they usually used to let our bodies out there in the birds of the air, and all types of manners of animals come and just eat them away, man. That's one of the curses. They don't teach that in school. They don't teach certain lynchings, like the brother in Waco, Texas, by the name of Jesse Washington, who was a 17-year-old young Jake, a 17-year-old so-called Negro, who was lynched for alleged, who was murdered for, who was falsely acclaimed of killing an Edomite woman of an Edomite man that he worked for, a so-called white man that he worked for, and they forced him, basically they forced him to testify and tell them that he did it, and then he had no other choice to do it. And that brother, they said in the source that he was very mentally challenged, and then when they say he didn't really understand what was going on. So basically they forced him, and they told him to say this and that, and then he did it. When I say he did it, I'm talking about he said what they said. He did not do it at all. They forced him to do it. And these Edomites, they ground him up, and they took him out the courthouse in Waco, Texas. And I know about it because I read about, because brothers, they know the images of, of the Jake being burnt up, that same image of, Jesse Washington, the lynching of Jesse Washington. They lynched him, and they were castrating him, and there was thousands and thousands of devils, Edomites, just look at just watching like at a football game, and it was very, very evil, man. That was that was the spirit of Esau right there, man. But it was horrifying, man. When I saw those pictures, man, when I learned about the history of Jesse Washington, man, it was terrible, man. So that's the lynchings. All they don't teach lynchings in school. They just teach nothing about white history, or they'll teach about Edomite history, or what these Edomites, these damn so-called forefathers, who are the forefathers of the Edomites. They're not all forefathers. Our forefathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like Abraham Lincoln, who was a damn devil that the Bible speaks of. Andrew Jackson, who made the so-called Native Americans. They're called the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears. He's the one who forced millions of Gadites, or so-called Native Americans, through the Midwest, and who else? All of these manners, all of these so-called founding fathers, who are actually all these Edomite forefathers of this country, who actually are the damn devil that the Bible speaks of, man. They're nothing but lies, and the Most High is gonna judge them when he returns, man. They're gonna come back in reincarnation and change in the kingdom of heaven, man. Because these Edomites and the other nations, they're gonna go into captivity, man, for all the rape, rob, and murder. So they don't teach lynchings in school at all. Well, the Lord, verse 28, and the Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Thou shalt grow up by noonday, and as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Yeah, that's right. Let me read it again. Thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. During slavery, man, a lot of our people, Israelites, were groping at noonday. We was hoping that this day would come to an end, and we didn't know what was going on. We was groping, man. When I'm talking about groping, we was sighing and crying to the Lord to redeem us, but he never redeemed us, because he said, in Deuteronomy said, no man shall buy you. That means no man shall redeem you. So no, the Israelites were groping during the time. Verse 30, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. When it says thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her, during the time of slavery, the slave master would come into the cabins and would take the Eve, the so-called black woman, and rape her in front of her husband, or they would take her husband and rape her and give her to her husband, and the wife will come crying to the husband. That's what they did. They raped our women during slavery. And they also raped the so-called Hispanic and Native American women during the time in our downfall. Esau Edom. That's what Esau Edom did, man. And the Lord is gonna pay vengeance, man. And another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. A lot of Israelites were the ones who built the houses of where the Edomite man, the slave master dwelt at. I don't want to call slave master, because he's nothing but a damn Edomite. The damn Edomite dwelled in. Because a lot of these Edomites, a lot of these so-called slave masters, they dwelt in these houses, and a lot of these houses were built by Jakes, by Israelites, so-called black men, Hispanics, and Native American men. We was building these houses, and we were not dwelling therein. We were dwelling in cabins, man. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and thou shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Yeah, we were gathering all types of fruits, cattle. What else? We was gathering all types of grapes, but none of us would take it, because the enemy, the so-called Edomite, the so-called white man, would take them and eat them, or he would get them and sell them away and make money off the profit. What the so-called black man did, or what the black man created for himself to eat. But the so-called Edomites, the so-called white man, would take that profit from him and sell it to another Edomite. Verse 31, thy ox shall be slain before thy eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thy ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thou shalt sheep shall be given to thy enemies, and thou shalt shall have none to rescue them. Slakia. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Yeah, they were selling our children, our babies. They were selling them. They were selling the mother's children to different plantations. They were selling the men, the women. They must have. They were selling daughter probably to the Johnson plantation, or selling the son to the Jefferson plantation. They were selling our sons and daughters, and our eyes were falling, and that was the last time we saw them, because they would sell them, and they would never ever get to see their children again. And that's one of the curses in Deuteronomy. That's the true black history, so-called black history. I'm gonna say Israelite history, that these devils, these Edomites, don't want to teach in school. The fruit, verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Yeah, the Edomites, the so-called white man, he benefited off slavery. He benefited off rape, rob, and murder. That's what he did, and then they profited, and they want to say that they built this country when this country was built up by our forefathers. They were built up by our ancestors, man. A lot of these devils, they like to claim things that they didn't do. And they were eating up a strange nation that we didn't know during the time we were back in the land of Israel. We didn't know anything about these other nations. We didn't know anything about Esau, Edom, and what he would do. And we didn't know none of that, man. None of our forefathers know about the Edomites, man. So they came and they pressed us and they crushed us always. They've been pressing us for the past 400 years, and they have never paid back. But when the Lord returns, he can pay vengeance upon these devils, man. Verse 34, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thy eyes, which thou shalt see. Verse 35, the Lord shall smite thee in the knees and the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. Wood representing Christianity and stone representing Islam, which has nothing to do with us. Islam belongs to Islam goes back to the Arab, the Ishmaelites, who also sold us into slavery with the so-called Hamites, during the time of the slave trade. But Ishmael, he's going to be destroyed because he had us in slavery during the time the sub-Saharan slave trade. So Ishmael, he got judgment coming to him as well. That's along with Ham. What else? Yeah, wood. Let me say. Oh, Slaki. Wood representing Christianity. Christianity goes back to these Edomites, because the Edomites, they came in the name of Jesus. There was actually a slave ship called the good old sweet Jesus, man. So how in the world that slave ship called Jesus? That doesn't make any sense. The letter J was invented in the 1600s. Before the 1600s, there was no letter J in the Hebrew. There was no letter J in the English letter, man. No letter J at all whatsoever. So how in the world could his name be Jesus? Jesus, I don't like saying that name. His name is Yahweh Shai, man. And his father's name is Yahweh. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Yahweh means he delivers, and Yahweh Shai means, no, Slakia. Yahweh means he exists, and Yahweh Shai means he delivers. Verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai shall lead thee. Yeah, we're called a proverb and a byword among all these heathens, among all these other nations. So-called white man, he calls us nigger. The so-called Ishmaelites, they call us. I don't know what these other nations call us, but they call us. They call us all types of proverbs and bywords, and they call us everything, man. That's what they do. They call us proverbs and bywords when none of that. We're the prince of the power. We're Israelites. We're God's chosen people. We're Yasha Allah. Yasha Allah. We're the prince of the power, man. That's who we are, man. And I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Shai for making me an Israelite, and that I came into this truth knowing that one day, the Lord willing, I endure to the end and not be part of the multitude of wickedness, man. And all these other nations, man. I'm gonna say this, bro. I actually work at a Walmart. I actually stay here in this place called Allen, Texas. There's nothing but Ishmaelites, a mix of Ishmaelites, Elamites. There's some, mostly Edomites, man. But where I work at, there's a bunch of Elamites over there, and they just don't like Jake. Every time you go into their store, they always looking at you sideways. And a lot of these Moabites, they like to talk shit. You know, a lot of these other nations, they like to do a lot of murmuring towards the children of Israel. There's been a lot of murmurings towards the children of Israel, man. A lot of shit talking. So all they do is just shit talk every time they see a nigga or a spick. Every time they see a black, Hispanic, or Native American, they like to talk shit towards them, or they like to say this and that. And a lot of these, especially the Elamites, man, when they be owning all these gas stations and the so-called hood, in the hood, and everywhere. I mean, not everywhere, but mostly where Jake dwells at, because most of Jakes, they dwell in the hood, because that's where I actually grew up at, man. Because I actually seen it, a bunch of Elamites, man. Elamites, Moabites. I seen all these other nations. They come in the hoods and the ghettos and the slums, and they set up their businesses, and they make profit off of Jake. They make profit out of Israel. That's what they do, most definitely, man. And they take that money and distribute it amongst their own people in their country and shit, or in their communities. And they don't hire Jake, or they don't get nothing at all. They don't go into the hoods, and they don't help out black Hispanics and Native Americans, man. They don't go into the hoods and help out Jake. They don't do none of that. They just here. They just come because America's like a melting pot. All these other nations can just come in here and just make profit off of Jake. That's what the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, that's what he did. He actually told them that they can come into the hoods, into where Israel dwells at, and just make profit off Jake, because that's what these other nations do. They just make profit out of black Hispanics and Native Americans. They just make profit out of Israel, and the Lord, He's gonna pay vengeance a lot. Even the Moabites, they go and they go and they punch, sisters. They punch Eves in the faces, so-called black women in the faces, or I ain't never really seen them. I ain't really seen them Moabites do it to Hispanic or Native American women, but they mostly do it to the southern kingdom, so-called Judite women. Well, not so-called Salaki, but they do it to Judite women. They punch them in the faces, and they oppress them, and they do all types of shit, man. But that's what a lot of these Moabites do, man. A lot of these Asians, man, they like to be racist, because a lot of Asians, they hate us, man. A lot of Asians, Moabites, Ammonites, I'm talking about all types of Asians, Koreans, every single Moabite or Ammonite, either you're Korean or either you're from Vietnamese or whatever. All you Moabites, y'all hate. All you Moabites and Ammonites, or any of you people of Asiatic descent, all you people hate us, man. And the Lord's going to pay vengeance upon you other nations, you damn Moabites especially, man. And most definitely, you Edomites, you're the number one enemy of the Israelite man, because the Israelite man and the Edomite man are enemies, man. You Esau, Edom, y'all gonna get it, man. All these other nations are gonna get it. Where was I? Verse 41, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. So yeah, we have sons and daughters, but we weren't going to enjoy them, because we weren't going to enjoy them because they were going to captivity, they were going to slavery, because that were the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. That's the curses of Deuteronomy, because we broke the commandments of Yahweh Shai. Verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him, but he shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Yeah, the strangers, the other nations are above us, and we're on the bottom of society, man. We're the first and last hired. What else? We're the first and last hired. We're the ones that are always oppressed. We're the ones that's always in the front, the forefront of every news channel. Every time you turn on the TV, it's either is a black Hispanic or Native American being thrown in jail or being in the forefront of every news. We're always in the forefront of being criminals. We're just being, these other nations, they just view us as a bunch of criminals or a bunch of, people that's, like to do bad stuff, and that's not the case, because they don't ever do that to so-called Edomites or all these other nations. What about the crimes of Esau Edom when he had us in 400 years of slavery? What about all the What about all the raping of our women? What about all the killing of our men? What about all the lynching? They don't ever talk about that. Ain't none of those Edomites out there. They ain't never paid for the lynching of Jesse Washington out there in Waco, Texas. And I've been out there with the Waco, Texas. They ain't never paid for that. They ain't never paid for the lynching of. They ain't never paid Sarah Bland. They ain't never paid for all the lynching they did to our people. So they ass gonna get it, man. When the Most High Yahweh Shai returns. All this is black history, real black history. The Deuteronomy, read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 down to 68. Verse 45. Moreover, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord Yahweh outside thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he command thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder upon thy seed forever. So this is a sign and a wonder upon our seed, Israelites, forever, man. This is a sign and a wonder upon us forever. Because the Lord, he cursed us, and this is a sign and wonder upon us forever, man. Because a lot of our people, we don't know who the hell we are. We over here lost in the sauce, man. Don't know where we come from. We over here want to just party all day. Want to be off on Friday and Saturday. You just want to party all day, because that's what Jake is worried about. Jake always want to just have a good time. He don't really care about Jake don't really care about repenting and coming back to the Most High, or studying, or going to the scriptures, or caring about the prophecies. Jake just always want to have a good time. But that good time is going to come to an end. You're not going to have a good time when all hell breaks loose. You're not going to have a good time in the time of famine. You're not going to have a good time when Jacob's trouble cook in. Because all that stuff in the world, all that drinking, all that having fun, it's going to go down the drain. You ain't going to have that stuff no more, man. The real fun is going to be in the kingdom of heaven. That's the real fun. The real fun when you enjoy to rule over your enemies and put these damn devils in captivity for all the rape, robbery, murder they did to our people, man. Their ass gonna pay. That's the real fun right there. That's what Jake needed. That's what Jake needed to be worried about. That Jake should be worried about the kingdom of heaven, because the kingdom of heaven is gonna be fun. But here in this kingdom, there ain't no fun at all, man. It's nothing but death and destruction. It's coming to this place, because this place is gonna be destroyed by 200 million ICBM nuclear missiles, man. This place is gonna be wiped out before the face of Yahweh Shai. Before the face of the world, man. So there ain't no fun. It ain't nothing but man, there ain't nothing but hell here in America, man. This place is death, man. Whole bunch of homosexuals, whole bunch of wickedness, man. People gotta take the yo jabba jabba, man. You know what, brothers, you know what I mean, but when I say the yo jabba jabba. But I can't say certain things, the YouTube algorithm, Esau's algorithm, and stuff like that nature. But they just, this kingdom is finished, man. There's nothing but death and destruction, man, in this place, man. This place is hell, because we are living in hell. There's no such thing as an underground place where you burn for eternity. That Roman Catholicism, where we are already in hell. Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord Yahweh Shemashai shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, till he have destroyed thee. So they put yoke of irons upon their neck in captivity when they brought us on slave ships to here to Americas. So let me read it again. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send thee against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. Yeah, we want of all things, man. The Israelites, they go to Esau, Edom, and one of all things. We go to him when we're hungry. We go to him when we're thirsty. Because, whatever water bottle you get, you got that water bottle for either Walmart or Kroger or someplace like that. And who owns Walmart? Who owns all these companies? The other nations. Esau, Edom. He's the Edomites. They're the ones who run these places, man. Everything you go and get, you gotta go to them. Like for instance, I got this shirt right here from Walmart, and I don't own Walmart. Ain't no Jake out there that owns Walmart. I got this from my enemy, the Edomites, man. So I didn't get this. I got this garment. I got this garment from a brother, but who's the one who had the fabric to make them? Esau, Edom. Well, actually, your brother made this, but a lot of the clothing is like this. This is 100% cotton. This comes from Esau, Edom, and this actually came from captivity, man. So everything we want, we have to go to Esau, Edom, and one of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon their neck. And so, yeah, they put a yoke of iron upon their neck in captivity, man, until they had destroyed it. Until we were destroyed, mentally destroyed and everything, man. Verse 49, the Lord shall bring a nation against you from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person the old, nor share favor to the young. Yeah, the Lord, he brought a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, and a nation as swift as an eagle fly. What's the symbol of America? The eagle. What's the symbol of Esau, Edom, or Esau's kingdom, Esau's rulership? Esau's rulership is the eagle. Like when they land on the moon, they said the eagle has. When they didn't actually land on the moon, but they said the eagle has landed. And we didn't understand English before that. Before we came here on slave ships, we didn't understand anything about English. We were speaking different dialects of Hebrew or different. We didn't understand that because they stripped us of our language during the time of captivity. And he shall eat the fruit of thy, verse 51, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee, either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks, or thy sheep, until he had destroyed thee. That's right. So he profited all of the things the Israelites did, man. That's what Esau Edom did. Excuse me. Verse 52. He shall besiege in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates and in all thy land, which the Lord Yahweh Shemashai thy power given thee. Let me try to get to the main point. Verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. That's talking about black. That's talking about black on black crime, black and Hispanic crime, native on native crime, man. That's the curses of Deuteronomy. Back then, we used to be intimate with each other. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about we used to love one another, man. We used to be there for one another in the 60s and during the time of the 1800s. We wasn't killing each other. We wasn't doing none of that, man. But that's a curse from the Lord that we were killing each other. We got like Crips and Bloods, BDs and GDs, all gang members and stuff, man. That's curses that's curses from the Lord, because we broke His commandments, man. Brothers over here rapping about killing each other, robbing another brother, or wanting to sleep with another man's wife. That's adultery, which is punishable by death, man. We shouldn't be partaking that type of stuff. So the Lord is the one who punishes. The Lord is the one who punishes us for that doing, for breaking His commandments. And toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. So what people on earth have, as the man that leads the household, that's the Israelites, us. That's where we are known for leaving the household. We're the only nation that leaves like single. You got single parent households. You got women blessed. You got black women, so-called black women that raise a child by themselves, and the man, he just leaves there, and the son ends up growing up not knowing his father, and he ends up joining gangs or becoming a homosexual and all types of man of wickedness, because he has no man to lead him in life. That's part of the curse of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. Verse 56, a tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward her husband, toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. Yet the so-called black woman, she's saying that to the father, to her son, like, your dad ain't shit, your daddy ain't shit, or she say, you just like your daddy, or they will hate their children, man. They'll kick the son out the house. They'll let the daughter run away. They'll do all types of stuff, man. And that's the curses of Deuteronomy, man. So-called black, Hispanic, Native American women, man, of our nation. And she'll be evil to her husband, because we will fight or all types of, mannerism, that happens in the so-called black household, black, Hispanic, and Native American household, man. Verse 60, moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. As every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. Yeah, so we're the highest one in HIV, we're the highest one in AIDS, we're the highest one in all types of diseases which were not written in the book of the law of Yahweh Shemel Shai, were not written in the book that the Lord sent upon the Israelites, upon us for not breaking His commandments, man. Verse 62, and ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy power. Yeah, we were left as few in number, talking about the Israelites. We weren't going to be as the stars of heaven, but we actually are. But here in the society, they say that we're 12% of the population. Here in America, they said that so-called African Americans, us, they say that we're 12% of the population, when in actuality, the Lord says that His descendants will be as the sand of the sea. We're actually the sand of the sea. But the Lord said we would be few in number, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy power. We did not obey the voice of the Lord thy power. So we're not actually, as the stars of heaven, we're not actually a multitude, but in actuality we are. But the Lord, He said we would be few in number, and that's what we are. We are few in number because we were separated into other parts of the earth, upon the four corners of the earth. Verse 60, it's like verse 64. And the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai, shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Yeah, so the Israelites, we were sent throughout the four corners of the earth. We were sent to America, to North America, because you got Israelites out there in the west coast of Africa. You got Israelites out there in the Mesopotamia, or over there in the so-called Middle East. You got Israelites in Europe. You got Israelites here in America. You got Israelites in Canada. You got Israelites throughout the four corners of the earth, throughout the whole entire globe. here on earth. You got the Israelites throughout the whole globe, man. You got Israelites in China, you got Israelites in Japan, you got Israelites everywhere. You got Israelites that look like the other nations. Because the scripture says that Israel is like a speck of birds. So you got Edomites you got so-called white people who actually go back to Israelites, so-called Black, Hispanic, Native Americans through their father lineage. But majority so-called Edomites go back. So a majority of so-called white people go back to Edomites. But you got some of our people, Black, Hispanic, Native American, or somebody who looks like a Jake that actually goes back to a heathen, that actually go back to a so-called white man. So it has nothing to do with. The scripture says the spirit bear witness with our spirit that we're the sons of the living power. So it's a spirit, man, that bear witness with our spirit, man. And it's not according to color. It's according to your father's lineage, who your forefathers go back to. In all actuality. Verse 65, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord Yahweh Shemashah should give thee therefore a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. So, yeah, we didn't have rest. We were working sun up to sundown, all day, every single day, man. We didn't have no rest at all. Even now, here, these jobs like Walmart, like I work at Walmart. These jobs are like, what's the name? Amazon, what else? All these warehouses where Jake work at, man. They don't give us rest. We work 8 hours a day, just nonstop. Just work 8 hours a day, making these devils rich, man. And in all actuality, we should be ruling this earth. And these other nations, they should be working for us. Not working for us for money, but they should be in captivity. We should be ruling over them, man. But they're gonna go into captivity for what they did to us, man. Verse 66, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. So, yeah, we were fearing day and night. We had no assurance of our life. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what will be tomorrow, what will be a year from now, or none of that. We were lost, man. We were lost in the sauce. We had no idea what was gonna happen. Verse 67, in the morning thou shalt say, would God, it were evening, and at evening thou shalt say, would God, it were morning, for the fear of thy heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thy eyes which thou shalt see. Yeah, we didn't know what we were telling you. We were telling God, Lord, I wish this was tomorrow. Lord, I wish this was morning. We really didn't know. We really didn't know nothing, man. And this is a major curse. This scripture right here is actually a major prophecy to show who the Israelites are. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. Let's go into the book of Exodus and see what the word Egypt means. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord, Yahweh Shemashah, thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So the word Egypt means house of bondage. Now let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, or the Lord shall bring thee into bondage again, or into slavery again, with ships. With ships. What people on earth went into slavery on slave ships? We did, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You can't say that a Chinese man went on to slavery on slave ship, or so-called white man went into slavery on slave ship, or East Indian man went into slavery on slave ship. Only one particular people on earth went into slavery on slave ship, and that would be us, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But the Native Americans, they went into slavery during the time of Christopher Columbus. He came and took some Native Americans and brought them to Spain and enslaved them. over there in Spain, and he also enslaved the indigenous people like the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans. Because when he came, he made them slaves, and he made them, and he start killing them and stealing their land. So Native Americans and Hispanics, the Northern Kingdom, they were also slaves. No, slavery didn't only happen with the so-called blacks. It actually happened also with the Native Americans and Hispanics. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, slavery again, with ships, by the word whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see her no more again. And it says, we shall no more see her again, talking about our homeland, the land of Israel, which is occupied by the Amalekites, the fake Jews, the Israelite. They're not Israelites, they're Israelite inhabitants of the land, not Israelites, not actually blood descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through bloodline. Where we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, where we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through bloodline. But they are not. They're Amalekites, man, who converted to Judaism in the 8th century. We shall no more see it again, talking about the land of Israel. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. The enemies would be Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, for a bondwoman, for bondmen, and bondwoman, slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy you. That word buy in Hebrew means redeem, so nobody was going to redeem us from this captivity that's going on, man. So that's about it, man. This going into spirit, I just want to make this history called the Bible is so-called Black history. The Bible is Israelite history. But again, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakakadash. Shalom to the elders and apostles and great millstones, and shalom to Yakim out there as preaching the word. Yahweh Yahweh Shai brought this lesson was edifying. To the next time, I want to say shalom.